Dr. Zafar Mirza, what has Pakistan done right or wrong? Is it fudging figures, or do you believe this is a reflection of Pakistan getting its act together?
Well, when WHO included Pakistan among 7 countries from where the world can learn how to deal with the next phase of the global pandemic, they looked at all the figures. So there is no question of fudging, or there is no question of lack of any transparency. I have been involved from the beginning in the response. And one thing that we have ensured from the beginning is that there should be absolute transparency of all figures and numbers. Like my friend from Sri Lanka was saying, we started earlier. There is a consistency of approach, and there has been a huge national coordination effort, which is not easy in our countries, especially as a federation. But this time, I think we put our act together, and despite difficulties, we have been able to bring all the provinces on the same page. And there was a national response to the national emergency. And also, we moved quickly from few generalized lockdowns to smart lockdowns, which means that where you find the concentration of cases, you lock down those areas so that the rest of the economic activity can continue. And as a result of this, we received a lot of cooperation from the people. So the compliance of our SOPs and for our cautionary messages have been tremendously positive this time in Pakistan. And so this is not just we are portraying it like this, but actually our hospitals are empty and people are not turning out for testing. Sometimes we are criticized that why you are doing less testing. Well, there are no people who are coming for testing because there are no complaints.
Let me stop you for a moment. I'll come back to more from you, because it's interesting again that there seems to be a template across South Asia, and it's a familiar template across the world of tracing, of testing, and then isolating. Some countries seem to be more successful than others. Therefore, Dr. Giridhar Babu, you're hearing from our neighbors, they seem to be doing better than us purely in terms of numbers. Is there something we could have learned from them, or do you believe India's sheer size makes it far more difficult in a way to manage a COVID pandemic compared to a Sri Lanka, a Pakistan, or dare I say a Nepal, to which I'll come in a moment?
Thanks, Rajdeep, for having me. We not only share ocean, but we are also in the same kind of ship when it comes to neighboring countries. And we need to look at not the absolute numbers, but actually in terms of what is the number of cases per million? What are the deaths per million? When we look at that, and there are 2 filters we need to definitely adopt here. There is no vaccine, we all know that. Every region is susceptible to transmission, we know that. Therefore, if you find for the infection, you will find the cases. So therefore, there is no island of immunity in one country versus other. Therefore, we need to, as you clearly said right in the beginning, we need to test, track, and isolate as early as possible. The only country which has done in 5 digits in terms of cases per million is Maldives. This is followed by India, which is 3,629 cases per million, which is followed by Bangladesh and Nepal. So in terms of cases per million, that is the first requisite for every country to have. Once you have identified the areas of transmission, the next and the most important goal is to reduce the deaths. And therefore, death per million becomes the next important indicator. You have seen, Rajdeep, even within the country, there are states that have higher transmission because they report well. There are states where we say lower cases because they do not report well. So number of cases is a function of reporting and testing. We need to be very careful and not go by absolute numbers, but make sure that we find for areas of circulation wherever it is
but
present.
Dr. Babu, why is it then Pakistan, both in cases per million as well as in cases being reported is much less than us, even per million at the moment?
Yeah, so when you find fewer cases, I'm not just taking Pakistan's example here. When the number of tests done are few, when number of cases are also few, therefore cases per million is going to be much lesser than what it is. we need to find as many cases as possible. Rajdeep, more than 40% are asymptomatic. And then the symptomatic will have to go by syndrome-based approach. And most people, by doing active case search, will be able to find it. I can give you with assurance, there is no country in this world which can be immune from having cases.
Right.
Having areas of transmission is absolute prerequisite. If we don't have, either the country is in the early stage of the transmission, or we are not testing enough, or we are not finding enough cases.